Welcome in to the Spark session, where today's guest, we are going to talk with Rebekah Lyons. Rebekah is a best-selling author and speaker. She is co-founder of Thinq Media with her husband, Gabe Lyons, and a dear friend of SeeSparkGo's over the years. She's got big ideas, has brought so many things to life, and has cultivated a life that it embodies so much of what she believes and is truth-seeking. And that is something else that's really powerful about the stories that we tell, is that we want them to be true. Rebekah is a force to be reckoned with, and I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. Rebekah, we are so excited to have you on the Spark session. Welcome. And yeah, we're so glad to have you. We are talking about big ideas and building teams. And I know that ideas in general is something that has been very personal and on your and Gabe's heart, bringing people around the table and talking about things that matter. So tell me a little bit about your dreaming process. How do you come up with ideas?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I like ideas that form organically, like in everyday life. You know, it's funny how you get the most brilliant ideas in the shower when you don't have a way to write them down. I get them a lot on walks. And then I'll have to quickly, like if I don't have my phone, that's not great. But if I do, I can like quickly jot something down. I think ideas always flow most effortlessly when they're not forced, at least the genesis of ideas, I think. Now, when you come around a room and around a round table and you get a whiteboard and you start to put those ideas to practice, I love the brainstorming of collaboration that really sparks, I know you love that word, sparks new like synergy around maybe the main or the original idea. So anytime I write a book or have a keynote, or Gabe and I dream about new initiatives with our Thinq Media company, it's more going, okay, usually one of us, it's kind of a singular person will kind of get a inspiration or get a vision of something or a picture or a word, and we go down that lane. But you do need to bring people around it pretty quickly to dissect it and then dream together with it. So I love that. And my favorite part of writing books, honestly, is I get an idea for a book and I'll journal a little bit about it, and it starts to take some shape. But when I get in the room with my husband's always a great partner in this, but then, an editor or somebody who's kind of helping me hone it, I love the dream. I mean, we'll take 2 days and we will just map out a narrative arc, and what is the protagonist's journey, and what is the struggle, and what is the free fall, and what is the redemption. And I just love that unfolding from that singular idea.
Yeah, me too. And I think that you just hit on something that is so important, is you need people in order to pull an idea to life or pull it out and give it legs. You need a team of people. And you talk a lot about in your writing about rhythms. How have you seen rhythms even play out in building a team and putting a team around the ideas that you've personally pulled off?
Right, because every rhythm requires so many steps, and you have your ideation, you have even just the regulation of the rhythm. Like a regulating rhythm calms the mind. It repairs the injured neurons in your brain. It opens new neural pathways. So a lot of people are even healed from trauma through this regulating rhythm. And it can be just the small, simple practice every day of something that just doesn't shift or change. And so when we started gardening 7 years ago, even just the practice of getting our hands in the dirt, having to tend to it for 6 months at a time every year from spring to fall, and then having to prune and pull the fruit and then process the fruit and then make new recipes. I didn't plan on becoming a good cook, but it just happened because all of a sudden I had all this produce I had to use or toss or give it away. And I was like, well, we work so hard to we should learn some new things. So I like how even with a rhythm, it always requires new growth and new learning. Mm-hmm. And you need different people around the table to do that. Because some people are best being a sous chef. Some people like to, say cooking is the thing. Some people want to just taste it until they get it right. Some people are like, I'm actually going to help with the gardening side or the planting side, but I don't really want to hum around in the kitchen. I'll help with cleanup or whatever. So it does depend on the wiring of the person and their mechanical engagement to that idea. But in general, everyone is creating. They might not always call it that if it's a beautiful Excel spreadsheet, but you are creating structures and systems so that something can, what I like, Dr. Frankel, he calls it where you can actualize something. When you put it, it's one thing to have a theory. It's one thing to have an idea that you keep inward. And even you can even talk about that idea. But until you take action with that idea, it can never be reversed. No one can take that from you. That is now a part of your story and a part of your history that can't be, just erased. And so I love that, because when you actualize something, you see true, an artifact, a thing that is put out into the world, even if it's a keynote, if it's recorded, it's like it happened, you're quoted somewhere, even if it's just your words. But when you create something together and it's put into the world, then, there's kind of almost this like magnetic force that comes around that. It almost has its own kind of a life of its own. And it's always fun to watch where those things go.
Man, I love the gardening analogy and just talking about we're putting something into the world right now. We're producing this podcast. We're here. We're talking about ideas and building great teams, and there's fruit. So to me, the actualization of those ideas, that's the fruit that you're saying, okay, now I get to create even more. I get to create new recipes, or I have to, because I have all of this food that, will go bad if I don't. So use your gifts, use your talents, right? What would you say just in your career, like what has motivated or inspired your writing, and how you've learned so much, you've taught me so much, honestly. So what has inspired or prompted your writing to this point? And then maybe what's next?
Yeah, I would say writing is always inspired by, like, if you can't write if you haven't lived, and you don't really have a whole lot to say if you haven't risked. I mean, risk and suffering, or just getting outside of your comfort zone in general is always good content, because the brain needs novelty, and it requires you always try new things to grow, to mature, to build resilience. And so that for me has been a huge part of the creative process of writing and what I learn. And so that's my favorite part about it. And sometimes I just need to live into something long before I'm ready to create a narrative arc around it, because I'm still in it. I'm still in the story. I don't really know what the Lord's doing. It's usually in a shifting season. I want to wait on that. And that's where I am right now. And it's actually been really good. I just finished a 5-year contract with a resilient project and then a marriage project. And it was like 6 different releases total. And it was wonderful and rewarding, and it has been so beautiful to see the fruit of that. Just the marriages Gabe and I have been able to help and support and equip and train and counsel, as well as watching a lot of families and children become more resilient. So that's so wonderful and rewarding. And I think sometimes we just jump into the next idea. And part of the beauty of ideas is that we reflect on those ideas, we process those ideas, we re-examine and reimagine without having to jump into the next thing. I think the idea of reflection is often overlooked. I'm a processor, in every assessment I take, I am the processor. And I'm like, where are all the processors? Because you do, until you look backward and look in the rearview mirror, and not to ruminate, but more go, what was it about that was so moving or so rewarding or so like horrific and hard and difficult? Like, I think the why behind a lot of things bring out the best revelation for insight, for nuance, and for new ideas to emerge.
Oh, that's so good. I think one of the best pieces of advice that we ever received, even just in marriage counseling, was to be curious and to be thoughtful about, well, I wonder why that person reacted that way, or I wonder what it is inside of them or their history that kind of led to that. I think branding is similar. Like brands are going on these life journeys and have life cycles too, and we're helping tell so many stories for them. What do you think the media landscape looks like today versus even what it looked like 10 years ago? How has the media landscape changed for you in navigating this online world of storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really the motive of the person who is the messenger. And so you really have to have some discernment on who you listen to. What is their goal? What are they trying to accomplish? If it's just clicks and it's trigger warnings and it's just trying to keep you animated and keep you anxious or keep you polarized, then I'm not really interested in it. I do like true journalism and the data behind what's happening. I like hidden things coming to the light. I think that's part of justice, and those are good things. But I don't have the energy for any kind of online like arguments because I have enough current people in my everyday life that I want to fortify those relationships, invest in them, because those are the things that I live with and are lasting. And real friendship requires presence, proximity, and permanence. And I'm just focusing on that in my everyday life. And so sometimes I do get offline more often because I know that we still each have this little dominion right in front of us that we are to tend to take care of, to cultivate, to steward. And I want to be honorable and integrous with that first. And so that has helped impact my response or reaction to media, because I think there's such goodness in media, but I also think it can be hijacked. And so we just have to be people who say yes to the things that are most restorative and life-giving in all areas of life, but also in the inputs we receive online.
Oh man, that's so good. And I love this idea of curiosity about the data, like what's real, and maybe even just things coming from darkness to light in general. So we want to be truth seekers in media, but we don't want to get bogged down in opinions or hearsay or propaganda or anything like that. Do you have advice for leaders who are in a storytelling role? Like, how do they, as consumers, balance the need to be a thought leader and share ideas, but do so in a way that doesn't detract from or emotionally cause distress, but more so builds up? We're called to build up, not tear down, right? So how do we build each other up as leaders?
I think when we can practice what we're always commanded to, even in the pages of scripture, to outdo one another with showing honor, to treat each other with mutual respect, part of this is like, you're going to have to sometimes lead with that, even if you're not getting it in a way of reciprocity. Like, you still have to initiate. And I think the leaders are the ones who initiate this without some expectation of return. They're just that's going to be their foot forward. They're going to honor. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to call something evil that's evil, but in the way in which it's done, in the setting in which it's done, right? The medium is the message. And so how you do it, when you do it, to whom you do it, is there relational equity? Can it really be a constructive conversation? Is this going to happen in a comment thread? No, it won't. You're not going to change anybody's conviction in a comment thread. So my posture is always like, I'm going to lead with integrity in how I would treat someone publicly is how I'd want them to treat me publicly, even if they don't agree with me. Now, granted, does that happen? No, I get unfollowed all the time and yelled at. But in general, I think I probably get it less than other people because I just don't have I aim to not have an antagonistic voice. Now, it's not because I'm just like silent and I don't care and my head's in the sand, but I don't have a lot of energy to give to the negativity. I want my energy to go towards giving my time and attention to things that do bear fruit. And fruit bearing is nourishing the people around you, not discouraging them and dismantling them and making them angry. And like, if you nourish with your fruit, then the fruit of that nourishment should be love and joy and peace and patience, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. If we are not maturing in that way, even when we're assaulted or attacked or disagreed with, then we actually don't look any different than the world. And we ought to have a different aroma, a different posture, and a different way to present ourselves. And again, this is not to negate conviction, but I'm hoping that my life models the conviction I carry more than the words that come out of my mouth. Like, we're also invited to be a witness without words. And so for me, this has been like, I'm going to choose a quieter life sometimes. I'm going to work with my hands so that I'm not dependent on other people. We're going to decide that we're going to adopt a child from China with special needs. And that's going to change our whole next 40 years or however long God has us alive. And yet those are the faithful, small, hidden ways that God keeps us tethered to him, and where the work can kind of come out of that overflow.
Are you kind of diving into this world of technology? Is AI kind of part of your content creation these days? Are you using that? Or is it more of a stiff arm, I'm going to stay true? I don't think AI is going anywhere.
Well, I probably have a less preferred response, which maybe you can imagine or not imagine. I'm in grad school. I have one class left for 3 years. Never have used ChatGPT once. As a result, because I don't even have an account. There are moments I'll ask Gabe, I'm like, maybe you should ask Chat this about this recipe. But in general, I don't even want an account because I don't want the temptation to ask Chat to describe to me how to do everyday things that I need to figure out anyways. And I don't want it creating words for me that came from that when I know that I can create words. Like, I think chat can erode our confidence in our decision making, in our counsel that the Holy Spirit gives us. Now, does it have constructive uses? Absolutely. It can get you some data. It can be a research tool. But when it takes over what you used to do that stretched you and grew you in resilience, then I'm sorry, your brain is actually shrinking, not growing. And the brain needs novelty to grow, like I said earlier. And as a result of that, it has to push into things that are hard. It has to be, and you only grow resilience by doing things that activate that stress response, just a little, not in a traumatic way, but enough to go, oh, I didn't think I could do it. I worked hard. I did it. I'm proud of myself. Now my brain grew in resilience. And so my concern with there being an easy way to just have everything done for you, God bless, then we are not becoming resilient people. And as a writer, of course, people could just create a whole book in Rebekah Lyons' tone and, but what's funny is my audience recognized, I think a lot of us when we start to read everything looking a little too perfect and buttoned up, you can almost start to tell, like, this is AI. Like, this is not, have you experienced that?
Yes, for sure. We've definitely seen it.
AI is trying to just put people out of business, like people out of jobs. Like there are so many jobs that are going to be lost. And so Gabe and I always go back to this book by Rory Groves that I quoted in Building a Resilient Life called Durable Trades. And what were the trades that have stood the test of time for the last couple hundred years? Those top 15 trades. Thankfully, author is number 15. But like your doctor, your teacher, like the medicinal herb person, like we're still going to need tactical things that can't come from bots. They cannot come from bots that are going to help you live your everyday life. And so I always encourage people to go, if you don't have a trade that you know how to work with your hands to put something together, to make things that you're not going to outsource to a bot, then you cultivate those things. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with just getting our hands dirty, living those quiet lives and staying offline, because I think in the future, the more people depend on AI, there will become a very obvious divide of who are the innovators and who are the followers. And we can be mindful of that now, as we maybe used to be an innovator and now we've become a follower, and how much of that parallels with our dependence on AI to do the thinking for us.
I love the word cultivate, and you just used it too. It's our word for the year at SeeSparkGo, which is great. But we have a lot of college students that come through the walls here at SeeSparkGo, and we're big office culture people. And so I think proximity to other professionals and people in other generations is so important to learning and growing, and honing your craft, right? And so part of what we're even hearing from the next generation is that they want to do it themselves, that they don't want to rely on technology to do their job for them. And so there's challenges, and they are accepting these challenges, I think, better than maybe our generation is, in terms of just saying, like, hey, I want to put my phone down and I want to stay offline, or have like a whole day where I just go walk in the woods without any technology. They're craving that. So I think that's really good.
Every generation reacts to the one prior. And that pendulum always goes back and forth. And our hope is that we kind of catch it kind of midway on either end. The extremes are never the extremes don't typically last. You typically come back to that middle space where you can kind of bring what you were given. You can bring that forward and round it out with where things are going and autocorrect what may have been overdone, as you grew up. And so I think we're all doing that. And we're all having our own shared experience of that based on how old we are, what generation we were born into. Instead of acting like every new generation has arrived, I think we all get what we were given. We all live into something that looks different. And then we are left to make sense of the two. And our kids are left to do the same. And my whole heart is like, let's just have grace for everybody who's in the process of, we're all rookies at doing this. Doesn't even matter how old we are. We're all rookies in 2026, and we're all rookies in how we navigate it. So if we can humble ourselves, if we can, like you said, seek to understand, be curious, lean in, listen, and learn, and not be against everything or all in on everything, but have a level of discernment. I know there are brilliant, God-fearing people who are deep in the weeds of AI, and they're finding very honorable ways to use it. And so I respect them, and I need to listen and learn from them. And at the same point, I think that it can also be used in corrupt ways, just like anything that takes over. And so we just have to have our ear to the ground, have community around us as we have those conversations.
That is a great discipline. Okay, we're kind of rounding this out with stories in general. Rebekah, do you remember the first story that you were ever told?
Oh my goodness. Well, the first story I was ever told was probably Little House on the Prairie, because I watched, I got the whole like box set, like Laura Ingalls, like the kid version, probably when I was like 5. And I think I probably read that in my early elementary, and I just loved it. And maybe that's what takes me back to the land or something. But that was back in the day when I couldn't watch a whole lot. We didn't have TVs growing up, so I was definitely a reader. I read all the Nancy Drew books in 4th grade. And so I just loved, now I understand that readers make writers, but I just loved learning about life through the power of a story.
Readers make leaders. So we are so thankful for you. You are putting things into the world that is shaping the next generation and even ours. And so I'm so thankful for you. And I hope our listeners and marketers and storytellers have gained and gleaned so much from you. So thank you for joining us on the Spark Session.
Thanks for having me. It's always a delight to be with you.